Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to Power Your Profit podcast. I'm your host, Susie Carder, and I am your profit coach. My guest today is Nancy Juetten. She transforms speakers, experts, authors into sought out after podcast guests who speak their way to six figures and beyond. Nancy combines her years of public relations agency success, proven online marketing strategies that she's honed since 2009. She is the velvet boot of accountability to kick clients' hiney into empowering, sustainable, and visible gear. Please welcome my guest, Nancy. Nancy, I'm so excited to chat with you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everything that you do. So tell our students, what is your genius and what is your sweet spot?
Oh, it's so fun to talk about this because you only have to ask your clients what your genius is, and they tell me that I'm a word wizard. I'm a human exclamation point on steroids. If they can't find their brilliant way to talk about themselves with a flashlight and duct tape and a miracle, I can find it for them.
And so if I look at, there's been so many people that have been turned upside down, right? What I love about this podcast is we just tell the truth quicker, faster, right? And when I look at that, what's been your secret during this whole challenging time, which is just entrepreneurship, but, people say, oh, it's because of the pandemic. Oh, it's because of, politics. Oh, we're at war. Oh, we're this, we're that. And you and I both been through these ups and downs of life and business and recessions and depressions. And what's been your secret sauce, right, to keep us going during this time?
Well, I think we can check into Pity Party Hotel and wring our hands and cry in our beer and put our head in the sand and hope for better days. Or we can roll up our sleeves and look for opportunities and see how we can add value during these challenging times. And that really was my secret sauce. I woke up on March 2020 having run a successful PR agency and helped people with their bios and have done all kinds of public speaking and knowing publicity like the back of my hand. And I'm thinking, what's the method of publicity that's going to be useful for people who can't leave their house? So I just sort of put all of my skill into teaching people how to be brilliant podcast guests, because when you can get booked on podcasts and speak to the right people and show up brilliantly, delivering value with authenticity and spirit, you can have your message carry around the world, around the nation, across the street, around the block. And if people need what you have, they know whether or not you're someone they want to talk to. So I've been empowering thousands and thousands of people to do exactly that since the pandemic hit. And it really has been a sweet spot for me.
I love that. There's so many people that don't know how to be on podcasts. You and I both know this, right? And you're like, oh, bummer. Or, teach virtually, because that's a different skill set as well, right? Really leveraging that and not be boring, because you can't be boring. You got to have those sound clips, right?
Oh my gosh, being the queen of the sassy soundbite, I've been told that my whole life. And so it's been such an interesting thing when you discover that there is a medium that exists where you can have your personality, bring your conviction, bring your value, and be your inimitable self, and know that it will stand and it will carry. And those podcast guest spots, of course, stay online indefinitely forever, so they can be a mechanism for people to ping pong back into your world, not just now, not next week, not next year, but indefinitely. So it's very efficient. And I think it's also super empowering. I like to tell this story about my dad because he was an actor in Hollywood. And the only way that an actor in Hollywood gets booked on shows is to go on auditions and hope for the best. And you go on auditions and you hope for the best and you think, well, gee, maybe they're going to give me the part. It's a very disempowering place to stand while you're collecting food stamps and wondering how you're going to get groceries into your kids.
Right.
And I'm thinking the cool thing about podcast guesting is you can book yourself on 2 shows a week, come hell or high water, and you can be brilliant twice a week. And if you've got the right message to share, you can make a lot of magic happen and people don't have to leave their house. And if you're introverted and live events aren't your jam, it's a silver lining for all those somewhat introverted people that love to speak, but maybe don't want to go to the 400 person event room and navigate all of that cacophony. So I think that there's a lot of value in being able to speak up from your house or your laptop or wherever you happen to be and deliver your wow.
Well, and how much more, like so much more exposure, right? Versus the olden days, which weren't so olden anymore, right? You'd had to get on a plane, go somewhere, be in front of those people. A 1 hour event could be a 3 day journey. Just, now you're like, oh, okay, I'll have 3 to 5 podcasts, a day. And how many audiences do you touch, right?
Well, when Jack Canfield, I heard him talk up on a podcast, he's this incredible America's success coach. He's written all these books. He's super successful. And he says, we're not looking for the new normal people. We're looking for the new better. To his way of thinking, he loves his wife. He loves his kids. He loves walking his dog at night. He can be on podcasts all day long and still be at home to walk the dog at night, have dinner with his wife, call the kids, not have jet lag, not have to deal with TSA. I think that if it's all mindset, really. Either you're going to roll up your sleeves and get to work, or you're going to wring your hands and cry in your beer. I think we have to decide to do what's right for our skill set, and we have to do something that's a contribution to the marketplace. And if we want to make money doing it, there's no reason we can't do it, no matter what the circumstances are in the economy or the world or in our own backyard.
Exactly. I love that you talk about, you have a lifestyle business, right? Because, I'm the driver of let's build a 7-figure business, and that it's not right for everybody. We talked about that in our past conversations. And so talk about you creating a lifestyle business. Like, when did that occur for you? When did you decide, wait, this is what I want versus that's what I want? Because most people think that's the dream. Well, sometimes that dream is a nightmare. I've had those nightmares. I've built several of them and go, okay, that was the hardest $1 million I ever created. So let's talk about that.
My business is a boutique business that is highly profitable and very lean. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I don't want to be responsible for a large team of people that has to pay their mortgage. And I don't want to be responsible for a whole team of people. That to me is a lot of pressure. I want to be responsible to my clients. I want to be responsible to my own obligations. And I'm married to a certified financial planner professional, and we've been fiscally responsible our entire lives. And we've invested wisely in all kinds of things that deliver value and wealth to us in multiple ways. So isn't it a beautiful thing to be able to do work you love on terms that are right for you, knowing that at this stage and age of my life, I'm not cut out to manage a huge team.
Right.
And I'm not apologizing for it either, because I think that it's a very exciting thing for people who are attracted to me. When you work with me, you work with me.
Right.
You don't work with my front-facing person who's never done any of this, but has been playing from a playbook. You get me. And
Right.
either that's for you or that's not for you. But the people that come behind the velvet rope with me are attracted to working with me and know that that's what they're going to get. And I deliver in spades. It may not be for everyone, but I like being able to keep it lean and keep it real and put myself in a situation where I can be at my best doing the things that I'm really strong at, versus forcing myself to be a team manager and a human resources manager and you have to, the whole math. I know you're the profit coach, and there's certain peaks and valleys that you reach where it gets a whole lot easier, but there's a long period in there where you got to suffer and really got to scramble around really to make it happen. I don't want to live there.
But that's so powerful to know, right? Most people don't figure it out until they're in it and they're like, this isn't fun, right? I was talking to a client this week. She does $5 million a year, but she's only paying herself $3,500 a month. I'm like, this is not right. Like, we have to change this model. And paying team $12,000, $10,000, $7,000. I'm like, that's not a sustainable model for you. You get burnout, you're tired, you resent your team, you resent you, and maybe not even consciously. That's that unconscious stuff that steals our joy and our passion to go, wait a minute. I love, because one of the first things we said when we met, one of the first times, you're like, I don't want that. It's kind of, my girlfriend said, I don't want to have kids. I'm like, how did you know that? Right? I just thought, okay, check, I did that. Check about the house. Check about the 7-figure business. Check, I did. To go, how did you know? I think that's just powerful.
Well, there's one other thing that I should say that really made it very clear to me. I mean, sometimes you look at people's Facebook feed and it looks like everything's wine and roses and kittens and unicorns, and they're having the greatest time of their life. But if you lift behind the curtain, maybe all is not so great in paradise. And right about 2018, a whole bunch of life hit the fan in my personal life. My husband had a mini stroke. My mother was diagnosed with dementia, subsequently declined and passed away. A very close family member got divorced after 32 years of marriage. Our house was burglarized and everything of value was taken from us, including both of our cars, while we were away at a conference speaking. And so when life hits the fan, one right after the other, your whole situation is called into question, and you're thinking, what really matters and what really doesn't? And so my husband and I kind of came to this place of, maybe it's time for more life in our years and less stuff to manage. Yeah. So our whole philosophy is, how can we put more life in our years? Because if my husband, who I've been married to for 35 years, if I almost lost him, I really want to enjoy every last minute that I have with him. So more life in our years means keeping it simple, keeping it lean, keeping it profitable, making sure clients get the value that they came for and a bag of chips besides, and making time to enjoy life. Because I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, boy, I worked all the time and I don't have anything to show for it, because people will come and take from your house everything you have and drive away with both of your cars. We have no control.
Right. So literally.
Right. Sometimes life hits the fan and you think to yourself, you know what I'm saying there?
Yes, I do know what you're saying. Okay, so talk about, one of your geniuses is you say bye-bye to boring bios, right? So talk about what you see from your experience in looking at our bios, and I'm saying us, entrepreneurs, business owners, and what some hacks we can do to get rid of the boring bio.
Look at your bio through the filter of, I'm looking at myself for the very first time, and ask yourself, if you were a host, would you be excited to meet you on that podcast? Most people are box checkers. They say, oh, the webmaster said I needed a bio, so I schlepped one together. Done.
Old one.
Right?
I'm like, oh, I like Nancy's bio, I'll just use that one.
Yeah, people do that too. Just yesterday, someone created a Media One sheet and submitted it for my review. And I said, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but this is so generic that the delete key is coming to get you and there's no saving it.
Right.
We've got to look, let me point out why this is not working for you. And let me ask you some really juicy questions about, what's your unique and provocative point of view? How did you come about this particular genius, and how have you applied it, and how long have you been at it, and how many lives have you touched and transformed since you discovered this talent, and what's your big mission in life, and how's it going so far? She hadn't answered any of those questions. It was just author, speaker, coach, snooze, you lose. If you're leading with author, speaker, coach, snooze, you lose, start again, because how many authors, speakers, and coaches are there across the globe? That sounds like bread, eggs, and milk to me.
Right.
So what's a hack? Are you an award-winning entrepreneur? Are you featured in major media that we would recognize? Do you have clients with names that we would know that would make your credibility shine brighter? Have you been at it for 22 years and are recognized for being on top of all the latest best practices that are working in your niche audience? Who is your niche audience? Sometimes people forget to name and claim who their people are. And the person who's reading it thinks, well, I don't know that's for me or not. Like, who's your people? Sometimes people forget. I work with early stage entrepreneurs. I work with mid-level career professionals. I work with people who want to get out of debt, even if they've been stuck in it for a lifetime. Like, who are your people? If you can't name and claim who your people are, you lose them at hello. The what's in it for me thing is real. And people are so screen to screen all the time. If they don't get the immediate value instantly, you are out to lunch. It's not happening.
It is so true, right? You're just part of the herd versus really standing out and being the leader of that. So let's look at, so we talked about a couple different obstacles, but when the recession hit, we have a very similar story. So I love your story about, in 2008 recession, when that one hit, right? What happened, and then how'd you come out of that?
At the time,
What happened?
yeah, wow, that was one of those pity party hotel moments for sure. I had been running a boutique public relations agency, working with clients such as Roger Staubach, the football great, Franz Chocolate, Seattle Chocolate Company, a lot of national food brands. I was having the time of my life. And when the recession happened, it seemed like all my clients disappeared in a heartbeat because publicity didn't seem urgent at that time, as they were holding on for dear life to save their own companies. So I found myself with a brand new house, the one we couldn't sell, and thinking that the fear of embarrassment of having to put my house on the market in the neighborhood where we'd lived for 20 years, like I couldn't bear the thought of having to declare failure.
Right.
So a friend dared me. She said, "You're so good at writing bios and making them brilliant. I dare you to write a book about it, and I dare you to get it done in 3 weeks or less." And I didn't have anything better to do. So I wrote this book, Bye Bye Boring Bio. And I think at the time I had 1,085 people on my newsletter list, which in internet standards is incredibly low, small. But I wrote a very authentic message. And I said, "Were you kicked to the curb by the Great Recession and have hung out your shingle and need to attract clients now? I've written a book to help you stand out at hello. It's called Bye Bye Boring Bio. And if you want to buy it, go here and get it." And it was just that. And I said a little prayer and I hit send. I went and walked the dog. And when I came back, it was like there was this slot machine in front of me. You have an order, you have an order, you have an order, you have an order. It was enough to pay the mortgage. And my husband's in Bellevue, Washington, which is no small thing. And so my husband says, "I don't know what you just did, but will you please do it again?" And so
do it again. We like it.
So what happened there is there was an urgent problem. I created a simple but effective solution. The market to message match was right. And it created this magic carpet ride for me, not only to help people make their bios better, but I started getting invited to speak about how to transform your boring bio from wallpaper to wow to attract clients now. Started doing training about it. I started exhibiting at conferences about it. I made quite a name for myself with it. And it really allowed me to build a whole marketing enterprise, really, because there's the bio, and now there's the Broadcast Your Brilliance Bootcamp, and then there's private work with me. And then of course I have all this affiliate stuff that I do that brings revenue and rollicking good results for me and other people. So I just sort of built a whole empire around it. And here I am. By 2022, I've done this book 3 times. The most recent edition was done in 2022, was completely revamped for virtual speakers, podcast guests, and messengers who needed to speak up without leaving home. And the magic carpet emerged again. And it's again a situation where lousy things happen in life and none of it's really our fault, but you can sit there and cry in your beer and check into Pity Party Hotel and wring your hands and say, "Oh, well," or you can take a dare from a friend and create something brand new and see how it could serve people. And that's kind of what I did. And it really, we got to keep the house. And
Awesome.
finally we sold the one that wouldn't sell before and managed to get back on our feet. And, here we are still.
I love that. That's a good story. I did not know that one. I love that. So let's talk about your wealth strategies, right? You're blessed to have someone that understands it, in your household. And I know you do as well, but having someone in that industry is amazing as well. So what has been your guys' strategy to build your own personal wealth?
We have been fiscally responsible since the moment we met. That means that we always invested. We're the millionaire next door.
Yeah.
We have a real estate portfolio that's quite impressive. We own our primary residence outright. We have saved for retirement consistently. Even before we were pregnant, we were saving for our kids' college, and we saved for him to go to college the whole time. So real estate, fiscal responsibility, being the millionaire next door, that means driving a car that's a few years older than the one that's hip and cool right now. That means not blowing money on a designer bag or designer shoes. I mean, I dress well, I show up nicely, we live very well, but we live far below our means. We've invested really wisely in real estate. We've gotten lucky. And being married to a financial advisor, I mean, it's sort of interesting. My husband's dad was the youngest of 11 kids, and he worked for General Foods for like a million years. And 1 week before he was supposed to get his pension, the company fired him, and he didn't have the benefit of all the years of service. And that was a horrible experience that my husband had as a young man, seeing his dad at the end of his working life denied what he should have had. So my husband ended up going to work in employee benefit communications right at the point that ERISA, the law that was passed that was going to protect people from suffering from that fate. And so he spent his whole career in employee benefits communications and really caring about saving for the future and making sure you do the right thing. So we have saved for the future. We have done the right thing. We have invested in real estate. We have been conservatively investing. We're not Bitcoin people.
Right.
Right. We take a rather conservative approach, but it's a really nice place to be at this stage, because he just sold his company for a multiple of its value as of today. And that was the last thing. I mean, honestly, he started this company because he wanted to have a job that would pay, that would free him up from the day-to-day workaday of you're here today, fired tomorrow. He took responsibility for creating a firm that actually turned into something really meaningful. And so we've been fiscally responsible. We've invested in real estate. We've saved deliberately. We've lived the millionaire next door lifestyle. That gives us a lot of choice.
Yes.
And I wouldn't change a thing. And I don't regret any of the shoes I wear or any of the handbags I carry. And I'm never embarrassed to show up at an event wearing something that looks great, but may not have a label. But I feel really good about how I can sleep at night, knowing that we're okay.
Nobody knows what the label is unless you're flipping it upside down, right? Okay, the red bottom shoes, you do know that, but I'm sorry, they hurt my feet. So that's just when you look at, is it worth it? So I love that, because that's our philosophy as well. I met a financial advisor early. I think I was 23 or 24, and she made me put that 10% aside. You put that aside first. You pay yourself first. Different than your paycheck. Like, I need you to pay for the future. So that account has saved me so many times, just in being able to borrow from it to buy a house, or borrow from it to launch my first book, or borrow from it to pay for college, and then pay myself back. So I'm not borrowing money from an institution. Right. So
so here's something else. It's like sometimes, there's a silver lining in an unfortunate situation. I mentioned that our home was burglarized. It was a very violating thing. They drove away with both of our cars, shattered glass everywhere. We're sitting in this beautiful home in a very high net worth neighborhood. Our son has already graduated from high school. He's off to college. We look to each other and we say, do we need to be living in this zip code to have a life that we can enjoy? So we ended up selling at the peak of the market. We bought in a different city at a steal of a market, right, and got out from underneath a mortgage payment that was suffocating.
Right.
But there's a whole other way you can live very well when you don't dread the first of the month.
Yeah.
That you've got to find a way to crack that nut. And I didn't really realize, if that's what you've always done all of your life and you've never experienced anything different, like that's the way it was for me until about 3 years ago. Now we have a beautiful home in another city that we really like, but no mortgage payment. That gives you a lot of choice.
A lot of choice. I love not having a mortgage payment or a car payment, or it's like, okay, let me just pay cash for stuff. And I think in my first divorce, like I've had so many, the first time, we had to file bankruptcy, right? And it was humiliating. And it taught me, if you don't have cash, you don't buy it, because in bankruptcy, you have no credit. And I lived that way for 10 years. And then it just became a habit, right? Because I heard, oh, you can't get credit for 7 years. Well, I didn't know you could actually get credit, but I walked around like, I can't get credit. I can't get credit. So, but it gave me the discipline. If you can't pay cash, you can't have it. And my motto is still that way. It's like, if that bill comes in, can I pay that off? Do I have money left over? And it allows me to accumulate. And then by the time you have that money, you're like, I don't want that thing. Like, I'm not going to spend $2,000, $4,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever that thing is. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to pay that. I don't want to, because it gets to be fun accumulating. Like, people don't realize the accumulation is actually funner than the spending. To me, I like to see that.
Well, something else I would say is that, I said, we've been smart, but we've been lucky. I'm
The
married.
harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, the man I married, I still love as much as I loved him the day that we met. And if you're lucky enough to get that marriage thing right, divorce is very expensive. Divorce is disabling and crippling to a lot of financial lives, but that is not something that we've had to contend with. And that's luck and work at the relationship. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that because 50% of marriages don't succeed.
Right.
And, even in business, I've gone to plenty of live events. I've networked with some of the most successful people on earth. My husband has come with me to all these events. And while some of the people are throwing down tequila shots and dancing on the ceiling, I'm tending to my husband and making sure that he's happy and that we're spending quality time together. And I've been teased about it, but I don't regret that for a second.
Right.
How many more tequila shots do I need to down to prove that I'm good at what I do? I don't need to take any tequila shots down or dance on anybody's ceiling. I'm good at what I do. I'm proud of how I do it. I have a really good marriage. My kid's healthy and happy. I mean, in terms of wealth, to be healthy and happy and, satisfied with who I'm sharing my life with, that's plenty wealth for me.
Yeah, that's the biggest wealth, right? Yes, money helps, but money just gives us choices. Like you said, I can not have to work hard. I love when you said I have a highly profitable business, not just a profitable business, y'all. I want you to hear highly profitable because that's the goal. It's supposed to give us a lifestyle that a JOB cannot. And so I appreciate your honesty and your candor and your willingness to share, so transparent, because that's what this show's about. It's like, friend talk. Let's talk about the real stuff. When I started this, I was like, I just want to have my clients hear these stories because I have some of the most amazing people on the planet around me, and I feel so selfish. And you're one of those people, and I feel blessed to have you in my circle and in my tribe and in my community. And so how can people, Nancy, play with you? How can they get a hold of you? I know you came bearing gifts. And
Well, I lead a fabulous Facebook group. It's called the Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact as a Podcast Guest Facebook group. And if you want to explore how to make that world pay off for you, I'd love for you to hop on over to getknowngetpaid.com/group. We're 3,300 members strong and we're highly engaged, and there's some movers and shakers in there, and I can't wait to have you be a part of it. And if you feel the need to make your bio a little bit more brilliant, you can go get my Know Like Trust report at first glance at getknowngetpaid.com/KLT. And in one quick report, you're going to get some ahas to put some pizzazz into your bio so that you will stand out, shine, and attract more of what you want straight away.
Awesome. So we'll put all that in the show notes so that you do not miss it. I know it's hard to drive and, write, but you definitely want to be in Nancy's community. She is one of the givingest people I've met, just a love bucket, right? She walks her talk, her tongue in her mouth, her tongue in her shoe are going in the same direction. So thank you, Nancy. Have an amazing day. I appreciate you, and I look forward to many more conversations with you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.